somebody who was pretty anti-capitalist, living in a Calcutta at one point, doing humanitarian work, graduated in 2009, loved the Occupy Wall Street movement. I mean, I was the last person. And here I am. So that really was where the heart of this came from. My own family, realizing that my crisis is not just my crisis, that a lot of people in America are really struggling to retire, to take care of their families, and to really. After I reached my financial freedom goal a few years ago, I realized I really wanted to teach other people this. Not just how to build wealth for themselves, but really how do we change the way that we do money so that more people benefit, so that we can redistribute wealth away from Wall Street, away from the financial institutions that have been exploiting our communities for a long time without us really realizing it. And so that was the motivation for me. I wanted to share my story in a way that helped other people's stories change.
You spent an international aid worker. How did those experiences shape your beliefs about money and community and the way we buy?
Yeah, so like I was saying, I used to live in a slum in Calcutta in my early 20s. I was doing humanitarian work, and I was pretty much trying to get as far away from American capitalism as possible. And while I was there, I was actually working in a social work that helped women out of sex trafficking. And we'd help them make like handbags and t-shirts, and then we'd sell those all over the world at places like Whole Foods. And for me, that was the first time that I really saw business or a version of capitalism that didn't enslave people, but actually brought freedom. These women, they were exit the sex trade. And that really opened my eyes to the power of business for a positive cause. While I was there, I also started studying different humanitarian development, how to alleviate poverty, different thinkers, and Muhammad Yunus. And Muhammad was an economics professor out of Bangladesh in 1996. He was a professor, and you can imagine he's sitting in his classrooms teaching supply and demand when right up there people were starving. And so one day he decided he wanted to do something about it. He didn't want to just teach economics, he wanted to change how they worked. So to a nearby village, Jorba, sat with a woman who was making bamboo stools. And he asked her, how much money are you making? And she just a few pennies. And when he dug in deeper to find out why, it wasn't because she wasn't skilled, it wasn't because she wasn't trying hard, or couldn't afford the $5 a day it cost to buy bamboo in bulk. She didn't have capital. And so each she would pay this loan shark exorbitant interest that kept her locked in poverty. And so when he learned this, he went all around. He asked 42 women, you want to know how much it costs to liberate 42 women in a slum in Bangladesh from predatory lending? $27. Mohammed right then and there said, okay, I'm going to become your new lender. I'm going to be this fair and equitable lender, but I teach you how to do it. So he put the women into these small groups, taught them financial literacy, and they held each other accountable, and each week they'd support each other. And as one woman built her business, she paid the group back when the next woman would do so. And what he found was that these women sent every penny back, which proved that he had a model. The poor are actually more reliable than the general, as long as they have personal accountability. And what he ended up doing was founding the Brahmin Bank, which has gone on billions of dollars to millions of women all over the world, helping them get out of poverty. And so studying international development, when I came to America, I realized that my family didn't have access to capital or resources or the ability to help my dad. That light switch turned on. We also aren't able to afford our homes. Many people can't buy a home. Many people can't start a business because they don't have access to capital. And so it really changed my background because I understood from a macro level that the way we build wealth can be through community. And we don't have to rely on these institutions to fund us. While banks are not as exploitive as those loan sharks in the slums, the concept is we need access to capital in order to grow.
I think we made a slide on this too.
Oh, yeah. One of my favorite quotes from Muhammad Yunus is that the poor are not a financial risk. They're a financial revolution. If only you trust them first. Seller financing is this exact concept. It's if we learn to trust our neighbors, if we learn to come back together, we create mutual aid in a way that funds the seller's retirement, the owner's retirement, and the retirement of the buyers at the same time. The person that's cut out banks. And I believe that we're worthy of that trust, and if we do that, it could be a revolution.
And especially for those of us who come from marginalized communities, can you touch base on those a little?
Yeah, so when I was writing the book, I couldn't just expose financial literacy. So if I start throwing financial literacy at them, they're going to reject it. And I would have too. I mean, that's what I did for a long time. And so I went back. And all of these are conditioned in society, the way that we relate to each other, the way that we relate to ourselves, the way that we relate to money. And so six money rich or bad. I mean, we might not say that out loud, but it's the general consensus amongst many people that if you get wealth, you get something bad to get. All over the TV screen. The reality is that it's not how you have to do it. You can build wealth in ways that help your kids. And so I wanted to create money myths in there so that people could deconstruct these things. So one of them is, you know, you can be and good. Person to have money. It's like so basic, but I think it's one of the biggest money myths out there. Another that you should go buy a single house, and that should be the cornerstone of your wealth building. I mean, that's the American dream, right? And while it is really important in ownership, because homeowners than renters, it is also the slow track to building wealth because it's a liability. It's money each month. And so I'm in my book, I'm advocating, think about assets first. Think about what is a liability? What is an asset? What is assets before you buy your single family home, and you can get much further faster that way.
So for someone hearing about seller financing for the very first time tonight, how would you describe what banking on your neighbor means in a context they could understand?
Yeah, actually, I had an illustrator help me out on the book because it's kind of abstract and it's really the box thinking. Go get a pre-approval from a bank, get a loan. This is how it works. No questions asked. So I realized I should probably illustrate it a little bit, and I have two here. So the one on the left here is really just helping people understand that every month, hundreds, thousands of dollars, for the most part, unless they paid off their home, is going to fund big banks. It's just your household, and that interest is then sliced and diced and sold on Wall Street. And since 90% of stocks are owned by 10% of the people, that is here is a little plumbing example of what if we just took seller financing and just pivoted a little bit and cut off the corporation. Here is just a great analogy of how we've been doing real estate and how we could do it. So how we've been doing it, this example here. Grow. Now some people have rental properties and that produces fruit, right? And they can live off of that fruit, it's sustenance, and some people just own their home. Over time, sell cash, sell it for a bank loan or a buyer who has a bank loan and get your money and move on. But that premise right there is the problem. The leaves and the branches, that's gone. The seller doesn't get to keep any of that. And likewise, there's the cost of sale. That's like this. What the seller gets to walk away with is the trunk. And then they have to go reinvest that, maybe buy another house, whatever. The alternative to financing is to and hand it to the next person. And each month as they water that can, the it continues to go. And over time, what we've been doing as a nation is encouraging this cut down, sell to the bank monetizes our equity, they get to earn all the interest. And what we see dollars from every household to banks when we could be funding our neighbor's retirement or sending their kid to college instead. And so